Well, hello folks, this is Barry the Auto Mediator, and I'm doing a new session here that I call Quick Answers for Quick Questions. So the quick question that I got is, why does it seem like my salesman is always trying to get me to go into a more expensive vehicle? Is there like a greater hit that they're making on that? Do they get more commission for putting me in a more expensive vehicle? What's the deal with that? So the short answer is 9 out of 10 times no. They are not getting a greater commission out of putting you into a more expensive vehicle. That is usually not the case. The way commission works is tricky to nail down because it's a little bit different for every single dealership in the way that they do it, but here's kind of a general way to understand it. So every single vehicle out there on the market has different grades or trim levels. Basically what these mean is what kind of bells and whistles that you see on the vehicle, certain features that are there that are present in some but not in others. They usually run sort of this way. You'll have a base model, a mid-grade model, and a max grade model, or sometimes what they'll call like the premium or luxury model. The dealership owns these vehicles, all for a certain amount of money. So your base model might cost that much on the sticker, and your mid-grade model may be that much, and your max grade model may be that much. As far as how much the dealership owns them for, usually this can be figured out in the markup. Now, that's not public information. That's going to be the dealership's personal information. But for the sake of example, let's say that there is a $2,000 markup on these vehicles. That would mean that the dealership is trying to sell it for $20,000. And they have marked up the price or raised the price of their costs by $2,000, and that means they own the vehicle for about $18,000. As the trim levels go up, their markup stays remarkably the same from vehicle to vehicle. And this is mostly due to competitiveness. If you're going to be competitive in the market, you can't be having your vehicles be way too exorbitantly expensive simply because there's additional features on them, and that vehicle with the extra trim levels costs the dealership more to even get that vehicle on their lot. So essentially, no matter which one of those vehicles we sell to you, the dealership would make the same amount of money. Now, where does the commission come into play? Well, let's say, for the sake of argument, that your salesman makes a 25% commission. That would mean off of that $2,000 gross that they're making, that he makes $500 for selling you that car. No matter which car it is that he sells you, he makes the same amount of money. And that being said, and again, this is all figurative. I don't know how much you make as a salesman, or you don't know how much I make on commissions. Every single dealership is a little different the way they run it, and it's pretty complicated. We may do another video on commission a little bit later. But why would I, if it doesn't matter which one I sell you, I make the same amount of money, try to convince you to go for a more expensive vehicle? Unless you're a real high-end luxury brand where you would make more money off of selling higher priced vehicles, which is uncommon. More often than not, that won't be the case. Unless that is the case, though, there doesn't seem to be much motivation for it. Unless, of course, there's something else going on. Usually it involves whether or not you have a trade-in. And we can go much deeper into this in later videos. But let me give you the quick rundown. You have a car. It's worth about $1,000 to the dealership. That's how much they want to give you for it. The problem is you owe money on that car, and you owe about $3,000 on it. So what this means is that you're what we call flipped. That's about $2,000 flipped. When you're about $2,000 flipped, that money has to go somewhere. Generally speaking, it gets rolled into your new loan. So rather than paying $20,000, you're actually paying $20,000 plus the amount that you're flipped. The bank is not always okay with this. And if you have a trade-in and you cannot seem to get into the payment range that you want, and you cannot seem to get approval from the bank 9 out of 10 times, it's because this negative equity, the amount that you're flipped, is working against you. So this base model vehicle may not have enough value in it for the bank to want to roll that extra money onto it. That's why we might suggest you go to a mid-grade or max grade vehicle so that the loan is more likely to be approved. So the greater the value the vehicle has, the more negative equity we can roll into it because the bank has to approve it. More often than not, if you can't get approved for a vehicle, it almost never has anything to do with the dealership. There's a lot of other things that go into it, but that's a quick answer for a quick question. Thanks everyone, and happy buying.